China just found a new oil weapon and it's reshaping the war. Good day, everyone. Welcome to the video of the day. When the Strait of Hormuz shut down earlier this year, almost every analyst predicted oil would rocket past $200 a barrel, triggering a full blown global recession. That never happened. Oil settled around $100, and the reason why connects directly to something we haven't talked about yet on this channel. China quietly becoming one of the most powerful players in this entire war without firing a single shot. Let's start it. We have already covered how this war spiked global oil price and how it dragged down China's own GDP growth. But here's the third layer to the story. China isn't just a victim of this conflict. In some very real ways, it's quietly controlling parts of it. Let's start with the section by section. So, the oil nobody else can touch. Here's the detail that surprised a lot of analysts. Even as Iran was striking ships from other countries and warning Western vessels they would be attacked, but oil bound for China kept flowing through the Strait of Hormuz almost uninterrupted. Since the war began, roughly 11.7 billion barrels of Iranian crude have passed through the strait, every drop of it bound for China. And China has been buying somewhere between 80 and 90% of all of Iran's oil exports in recent years, largely because Iran oil is sanctioned by the US and sold to China at a steep discount. That relationship gave Iran a strong initiative to keep China's specific supply line open, even in the middle of the war. Now, the second discussion is the stockpile China built before the war even started. This is the part that really is a weapon in strategic sense. China didn't just get lucky, it prepared for that. Over the years, Beijing took advantage of periods of lower crude price to quietly build one of the largest strategic oil reserves in the world. In January and February of this year alone, right before the war escalated, China bought 16% more crude than it had during the same period of the year before, according to its own customs data. By the time the conflict hit, trade analyst firm Kepler estimated more than 46 million barrels of Iranian crude and several days' worth of national energy supply was already sitting in the tankers along the South China Sea as a buffer. So while other countries scrambled once the war started, China had already stocked up in advance. Now, the white leverage nobody talks about. Here's the piece that connects it all. Oil market analyst Paul Stanky point out something striking that says that China's sheer size as an oil buyer may actually be discouraging countries from escalating conflicts further, precisely because nobody wants to be one who disrupts China's oil supply. This argument, echoed by JP Morgan's own analysis, is essentially this one. It's not in anyone's interest to deepen hostilities in a way that seriously threatens China's energy security, because China's economic and political weight is simply too large to provoke directly. That's a genuinely new kind of leverage, wider than military power, but arguably just as influential is how the specific war is actually played out. At the same time, this cuts both the ways for China. When the crisis intensified, Chinese officials ordered the country to refine the temporarily hold diesel and gasoline exports, and even they pushed to cancel the already signed contracts. Now, why this matters a lot for everyone. So this connects directly back two of the things we have already covered. Remember the oil price spike that hit petrol price worldwide? Part of why it didn't get worse is China's reserve buffer absorbing some of the shock. And remember China's own GDP slowed down to a 4-year low. That happened despite China managing to secure its oil supply better than almost anyone predicted. That means that slowdown was driven more by weak domestic demand and the property crisis than by an energy crunch. In other words, China insulated itself from the worst of war's energy shock, even while everyone around it felt more of the pain. What is the bigger picture? A war that started as a US Israel Iran conflict ended up revealing that China, without any direct involvement, is the fighting has quietly become one of the most important stabilizing and self interest force in how the entire crisis unfolds. To conclude, it's a reminder that in global conflicts, economic weight can matter just as much as military weight. We will keep watching how this plays out, the situation continues to develop. If this connected the dots for you, hit the button or subscribe. Make sure to like the video. Share it with your friends, family, colleagues too. Welcome to Money Brief. Let's grow together.